A year ago, I bought the cheapest rooftop tent I could find, and that was the Body Armor 4x4 Sky PIKE. Now this is a 2-person tent, and it's done pretty well, and I've been running this tent for a whole year now. We've been on a bunch of adventures, and I just wanted to give a little update on how this tent has performed over that year, and if I'm going to keep using it, and kind of my whole thoughts on how this tent did, if you're in the market for one. Now, like I said, this is the cheapest rooftop tent that you could probably still find. I just recently saw it on sale for about $850 roughly, and that was on Amazon. Now, I ordered mine off Amazon because it was free shipping, which saved me about, I think, $120, because some sites were charging that much for shipping at the time. So when I originally bought this, I think I spent $900 on it. It was on sale. Typically, this tent will range between $1,100 and $900, and the lowest I've seen was at like $850 price, and that was on Black Friday, and that was very impressive. I've really enjoyed this tent, and it was awesome to get me out there. This was like one of the first mods I bought on my truck. Now, I know a lot of people say you need to build your truck up from the bottom up, but I don't listen to people. I do it my way, and I just wanted to get out and go camping. So I bought the tent first and, the rack. And I think that was a great choice for me because I was able to get out there, go camping, make sure I even liked this hobby of overlanding, and Ashley liked it, and we kind of just fell in love with it. So I was able to, really invest money into the truck and fall in love with this hobby even more. So it's a really good entry-level tent for anyone just wanting to put a tent on their roof, be that guy, be a little cringy, and hop into the overland space. One of the main complaints you're gonna see people have with this tent is it's a soft top and it takes a while to put up. That's not really a big deal because once you do it 2-3 times, especially if you're kind of in a hurry because it's about to rain, you're gonna get to know this tent really well and know how to put that together. Now I can do this in about 9 to 10 minutes roughly, and if I'm just relaxing, casually doing it, it takes me about 13 minutes. That's just kind of goofing around, maybe drinking a beer and just kind of just having fun with it. But if I'm in a hurry, I think the record I did this was like 7 minutes and 50 seconds. That was when it was like raining and I didn't want the tent to get super wet before putting it away. Now, talking about the tent being wet, that brings me to my next problem and kind of the reason why I don't really like the soft top tent. Less of, setup time, and that's what most people complain about. My complaint is having to put this tent away wet more times than I would like to. Now, with it being a soft top tent, like I said, it takes a while to put up and dry out. So typically, I have to set this up when we get back on camping trips to make sure it's dry and doesn't get moldy. So that's a whole big headache that I don't think most people will have with the hardtop tents because there's only like 3 walls that are fabric that can be wet. With the hardtops, you have that hard shell. I have this giant top piece that can get wet. And then sometimes, recently we got the diesel heater hooked up so the inside stays dry. But in the past, the inside was very wet when I've had to put it away on camping trips. So when I get home, I have to usually set a whole day aside to set this tent up, let it sit out and dry. And sometimes it starts raining again. I'm in PA, the weather's kind of all over the place. So it becomes a headache. That is my biggest con with this tent, is having to deal with it being wet, because I don't want it to get moldy, because I'm actually experiencing a little bit of mold after about a year of use. And it's not on the inside, it's not really even a big deal, but I'm gonna bring you guys on this corner here to show you where it's molding, to kind of give you some insight on maybe a different way to set your tent up and learn from my mistake. For example, this is the side it is molding on. So as you can see here, there's not much room in between this and the side of the tent. Now I don't have this issue on that side because it folds out, but on this side I have trouble getting the actual tent itself to stretch the whole way, so water always gets stuck in the crease here. That's my biggest issue, and I've actually got some mold growing along the whole corner on the inside. I'm not going to take this cover off right now because it's very cold, but on this whole corner, now it's not a big deal, I can clean that up, but I did want to make note of it because it's a problem. Maybe if you get like a small bracket here to lift that tent up a little bit higher. Now this may be just an issue with my rack system, but I wanted to make note of that. If you're going to get this tent, watch how much room you have to be able to get that fabric to fully extend and make sure it's dry. A lot of my adventures when me and Ashley go out, we're usually going somewhere, setting up for a night, and then the next morning packing up and leaving and continuing on our journey, going to check something else out. So the setup time is kind of a big deal for me. Like I said, it's not too long, but after about a 4-day stretch of you climbing around, setting this tent up day in and day out for 4 days in a row, when you come home and relax, your body does feel a little bit sore. Now I go to the gym, so my body's pretty used to getting beat up, so I don't know if anybody else would experience this. Maybe I'm just a sissy boy. But after about 4 days of setting this tent up every day and closing it every day and crawling around, my knees hurt from crawling around. My body's just kind of sore, and it's directly related to having to set this tent up. So if you're older and, you know, maybe not that physically fit, like I'm not that physically fit either, but for example, I just want to give you a heads up that after a few trips out, you may get kind of sore. A few other things I want to make note of this video is this is the cheapest tent that I found, but I want to give you a little secret in what I found out when I was searching for this tent. All these soft top tents most likely come from the same Chinese manufacturer. So when you find a soft top tent that almost looks identical to this one opened up with a different brand on it, I'm not going to say brands or anything, but if they're charging $2,300 for this same tent, think about what you're buying. Are you really buying the name? I just want to give you a warning there. If you're buying a soft top tent, they're usually all the same. So just so that, like, you know, buyers beware on that. Just give you a heads up. But I wanted to continue talking about any issues I've had with this tent. We talked about the mold, talked about the setup time, talked about after a couple days of doing the setup, you're going to be a little bit sore, or at least I am. Recently, on our last trip, now I don't know if it's because we've been doing a little bit more rough off-road trails, but I found a couple bolts loose on the tent. On the inside there, there's pulls that hold it up that bolt to the frame of the tent, and I found in the past one was loose and I had to tighten it up. And then on our last trip we just went on, I accidentally pushed on the rail on the inside, which usually isn't a big deal, but that bolt just fell out and I actually had to put that back in. Not really a big deal, but I want to make note of that in case you don't ever tighten the bolts on your setup, that they will become loose if you're doing a lot of off-road trails and it's, you know, you're vibrating those bolts. Just make sure you keep them tight and keep an eye on those. Let's talk about the pros, because I'm kind of being a little bit negative about the tent. I do still really enjoy the tent, and if it wasn't for this tent, I probably wouldn't have experienced a lot of the things I have last year. So that is a pro. You're gonna buy this tent, you're gonna have the opportunity to get out there, you're gonna meet people, you're gonna have fun with your significant other, or have fun by yourself, because camping alone is just as enjoyable in my opinion. This tent is great, and comparing it to the soft tops that you can buy out there, I think this is a must buy. I don't think you should buy any of the other soft tops. That's just my opinion. But if I would do it again, and if I'm gonna go out and buy another soft top, I wouldn't buy a different soft top. I fit me and my girlfriend Ashley and my dog up there on every trip, and we sleep comfortable. It came with a nice 3-inch or 2-inch mattress that it was acceptable, but we actually put a small mattress topper on the bottom of that to make it even softer and more comfortable. And it's cool because you can actually close it still, and it closes fine. So that's another pro. You can have stuff in there while you close it, and it closes fine, and then open it back up and it's all set up, ready to go. And a lot of our camping trips, we actually experienced some really bad weather, heavy wind, heavy storms. You know, PA, we had some nasty storms up in the mountains, and it did fine. Nothing broke, nothing bent. When we were at Outer Banks doing a little camping trip and having a little bit of a vacation there, we had a really bad storm. The wind was like, I don't even know how fast, but it felt like it was a hurricane. It wasn't actually a hurricane, but it was really bad. And the tent did fine. None of the poles bent. So I can't recommend this tent enough. I have no issues with it other than the small faults that have become annoying because it's a soft top tent. But for the brand itself and what I bought, I was more than happy with it, and I'm still am. Now, I don't think I'm gonna ever change the tent out until I actually have to, if it breaks or something. But maybe in the future, if it breaks, or maybe if Ashley lets me spend a little bit more money on the setup, we might switch to a hardtop tent just to see how that changes our setup and if it enhances it and makes it a little bit more enjoyable. I don't know, we'll see. A lot of people think that this is a waste of money and you can just go buy a Walmart tent or a typical tent you would set on the ground. And that's always an acceptable course of action. You know, you can always camp however you want. But I will say, on our trip to Outer Banks, when that big storm hit I was just talking about, everybody that was in a ground tent, when we woke up to look, their ground tents have collapsed in, and the poles actually broke and snapped, and none of the soft ground tents were standing. Our tent and a few other rooftop tents that were in the like camp area we were at were all still up. So these tents are a lot stronger than your typical ground tent that you can get at Walmart. So that gives you a little bit of peace of mind for what you're spending on these tents, that you're not just buying a Walmart tent that's up high. All in all, guys, after the year of spending the time in this body armor tent, I am more than happy with it. I have no issues with it. I did just want to do this 1-year review to let you guys know kind of my thoughts. I know a lot of people look at this tent and either step away from it because it's a cheaper option, but I'm here to tell you guys, definitely worth your money. And it's stood up to what I put it through. I'm a big guy. I've been laying in it, crawling all over it. I crawl on top of this every time when I'm setting it up. Nothing's broke. You can check that out in all my camping videos of us actually using this a little bit more in depth if you want to see that. But if this video helped you out in any way, gave you some insight on this tent, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. And you know what? I'm gonna head out because my hands are cold, but check this video out right here. It's pretty good.